Okay, so we released 7.5 back in June. It was released to clients on the 1st, and we've done 4 patch releases since then, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4, which has contained 86 kind of usability and defect fixes. There's 38 kind of smaller, improved features, new things that we've added, but they've all been relatively small. But whilst that's been going on, we've obviously been working towards release 7.6 as well, and that's got some pretty big new features in it. So we're obviously going to have the usual tranche of defects and usability fixes that we have in all releases, lots of smaller new features, like for example, we've got some more workflow blocks coming. We've added delivery channels to eForms, so if you're using Forms Evo and stuff, you'll now be able to actually deliver those things via email or whatever channels you've got set up. We've got a pretty interesting little report on document usage coming as well, which will tell you kind of where all of your document templates are being used, the ones that aren't, and let you identify, any chuff that you might have in your system. But beyond that, we've got some big ticket features as well that come off the original Release 8 roadmap, which I'm going to try and show you some of these in a second. So some of the biggest stuff that's in the 7.6 release includes the menu editor rollout. So we introduced the menu editor a while back. We're slowly starting to roll that out across more and more pieces of the system. So we've had the portal ribbon editor for a while, but we've also now got the ability to edit the blade ribbon, which will come as a good thing for most people. And then slowly over time, we're going to release that menu editor out to all the different places where you can see some kind of contextual action against a work item. We've also got an updated mobile framework that will be published to GitHub. So those of you that are creating workflow-specific mobile apps for Sherdo, whether that be yourselves or through professional services, we've got a whole raft of new features in that mobile framework that will basically let you get started building your workflow-specific apps a lot quicker. One of the biggest things that's in 7.6 is the new business rules engine. So this is actually matching rules version 2. So everybody's used matching rules, I assume, for things like making decisions in workflows or doing allocation rules and things like that. We've got a completely new version of that now, and I'm going to take you through that with a brief demo towards the end. We've also got a complete overhaul of the expressions engine. We've had some frustrations with that in the past in terms of the language being difficult to understand, too many brackets and things like that. So we've overhauled that. We've got a whole new set of things that you can do that let you do much more complicated things in easier ways. And another thing that I want to show you is this consolidated participant picker as well, which is anywhere where you want to choose a participant on a work item. You've probably noticed that when you go into the aspects editor, you've got probably about 6 or 7 different ways of achieving the same thing. We've consolidated all those back down into one thing, so it's easy to create, and that one thing's had a whole bunch of new UX put over the top of it to make using it easier. Okay, so I've rattled through that as fast as I can because I actually want to get to some demos. So I'm just going to share a different screen. And hopefully everybody can see Sherdo.
We can.
Excellent. Right, good stuff. Okay, so I'll rattle through a couple of the smaller things first. So I want to show you the menu editor, the participant picker. I want to spend a bit of time on expressions, and then we'll talk about the business rules as well. So from the menu editor point of view, let me show you what we're talking about. If I go into a case and I open up well, we've always had this. We've had this since menus came out, the ability to change this top strap. So you can put new buttons and things and whatever you want basically onto here, the actions that you can perform against your work item. But what we're rolling out now is this one. So all of the menus that you see across the top of the blade, when you're in the key facts for a work item, you open a task or whatever, you can now customize all of this. So I'll show you how that works. If you've used the menu editor before, it'll be in a natural place. So we go to a matter, private client, general, And it's on the left-hand side in the modeler for the work type, the menu designer. And down at the bottom, you see the work item ribbon, which is where you can override that portal ribbon, and you can change individual sections, or you can change the whole thing. Obviously ships with defaults, what it thinks is the best things to put on there, and then you can just customize them. But now we've got this new section at the top, which is the blade ribbon, which allows you to edit everything that you see on that blade. So if we take this one, for example, the Matter Private Client General, I could just override this primary section maybe, and I'll add into there a category, which is going to be a drop-down menu. I'll just call it Forum, and I'll give it a icon of users. Save that, and then within here I can add any command, any provider. So the difference between a command and a provider, if you don't know, is a command does one thing, a provider generates lots of commands. So a command might be something like progress the milestone to this particular phase, whereas a provider would be give me a list of all the phases I can currently transition to. So I'll add a command onto here, putting it in the wrong place. Add a command onto here, and we'll say let's manage participants, and you can add anything that's available in the command system, of which there's quite a lot. So let's add that, and we'll call this people, and it's going to invoke the manage participant commands on the current work item. And then we'll add another one, and let's maybe start a workflow against this work item, and we'll just call this workflow 1 because I'm really creative, and I'll give it a little spy icon. I'll select the workflow that I want to run. I've got a dummy one set up, which takes a parameter called work item ID, which I'll map to the current work item that we're looking at on the menu. Okay, I'll just, to prove that it's run, I'll just put a completion message on saying started. Okay, so I'll save that, I'll bust my cache, and then I will go to my work item. Wait for the cache to reload. Okay, so if I open up my blade for this work item, you can now see I've got a new menu item on there. I can go into people, which is managing participants, or I can start that workflow that I've just triggered, and I should get a little toast pop up. So that's the menu editor. And as we progress now towards 7.7, 7.8, you'll see this menu editor being rolled out across more things. So wherever you see like a list of work items, for example, and you have a context menu against it, you'll be able to start editing those menus as well. Okay, so the next one I'll show you just quickly is the new consolidated participant picker. So if you've used this before, you'll have seen that there's about 6 different options that you can choose for how to add a participant field to a work item. A little bit confusing. We've got different controls for if you want to manage a list or if you want to manage a single one. But the consolidated participant picker is a single controller that replaces all of those that you can configure to do exactly what you want. I'll just give you a really brief demo. So here I'll create a new instruction for a private client. And it's this here. So you can now do some of the usability stuff. So this works exactly as it did before, really. You can still click the buttons to go and search. I can't find the person I'm looking for, so you can add a new one and all that kind of stuff. So the functionality is still the same, but there's now some new UX. You can click into the field and start doing that in line. So if I want this to be Cyberdyne, I can do a search for it, and I can select them directly from the list. I can also quickly get straight to adding a person or organization. So again, this is respecting the rules that you set up for the rule sourcing, what types of participant can fulfill that role and all of that kind of stuff. So here, the client can be a person or an organization, and I can go straight into add person. And it takes me straight into the ODS details. So the idea of that is it's really replacing the multitude of different controls that we had before with a much better UX. You can do more things in line. Okay, so I've rattled through that a bit quick. I do apologize, but I want to get to some of the more meaty stuff. So expressions is the first thing I want to show you. We've expanded the capabilities of this language quite significantly, and it's completely overhauled in 7.6. Your existing expressions will still work, but you can now start to use some of the new language features to make the whole thing a little bit easier. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about this. So if you go into Modeler and you go into a work type, so I will pick my private client. And you go into the data composer. The data composer is showing you all the fields and things that are available for this work type. And you can, of course, create new ones. When you're creating new ones, they're calculated fields that are based off something else. Now, I'll just go into the debugger and I'll do all the work in here, and I'll just choose something to run it against. What you'll have noticed when you were creating these in the past is if you wanted to do something like, let's say with the work item title, you're into creating a lot of brackets. So my calculated field, I'm going to start by saying it's work item title, but then maybe I want that in lowercase. Everything was very functional before, so you would write, to lower, to make it lowercase, and run that, and it should go lowercase. And then if I wanted that actually uppercase, then I've got to pass the result of that into another function. So to upper, to lower, run, off we go. And then if you wanted to do an if with that, so maybe you want to say if that starts with, make sure I get this right, and it starts with MA, then yes will be the result of the field, otherwise no. And you see it's all very, very functional. You're not starting with the piece of data that you're working with, the work item title. You're starting with having to chain all these functions together. In the more complicated ones, you can end up then with basically an expression that looks like this, with a million brackets at the end, and it's painful to read. So what we've done now is we've made everything that the data composer returns into an actual object. So work item.title, whilst the value that it returns to this calculated field now is the string of that, it's actually an object in its own right that you can call methods against. So you can just go dot to upper, and we suddenly get the uppercase version. And we can do method chaining. So we can then say, take that and make it lowercase. So overall, it's just making the whole syntax easier to understand, easier to read, and it's a much more fluent kind of slant on the language. So then the next bit is when you're doing if conditions. Before, if was also a function, so you had to create a function and pass parameters into it. Now it's a first-class citizen in the language, so we can actually just go if that to upper dot to lower dot starts with MA, then yes, else no. So that is a much easier expression to understand. One of the other things that we got feedback on in terms of the language was the inability to add comments. So some of these expressions can get quite complicated. So now we can add block level comments where you can put whatever you need within your expression to describe what it's doing if you need to. And these can also go in between. So we can put stuff here like uppercase. So you can break your statement up, it all still runs, but you can have the documentation within the expression itself. Now, another one, which I'm going to cut and paste some code for this because there's no way I can speak and type this at the same time. Another one is expressions like this. So this is where we're saying, so this is in the old style of expressions. And what we're saying here is if the work item subtype is one of these three things, then I want to return the word yep. Otherwise, I want to return the word nope. Now that in itself is it's a lot of repetitive stuff within the expression. So we've made that simpler as well. We've added a concept of array checking. So we can replace this whole thing now with this. So again, using the more succinct if syntax, we've now got this operator called in, where you can pass in an array of values. So we're saying if the work type is in those three, then return yep, else nope. So the same as what we were doing before, but with much easier to understand syntax. You can also do not in, of course, and there's a whole bunch of operators that we've added to the system to let you do funky things. Another small one that I want to show you is we've now got methods that support optional parameters. So if I press Control and Space, I get a list of the functions that I can use. And you'll notice in there we've got things like starts with and starts with ignore case. That's fine, I suppose, but it's not the best. What we now have is the ability to have functions defined in our expressions that have optional parameters. So taking format, for example, if I wanted to format the number 25 as a currency, I can run that. So I get £25 in the result. But this has an optional parameter as well. Let's say I want that in dollars. I can pass in an additional parameter, which is the culture code, and say I want that in ENUS, and I will get dollars. So we've got functions with optional parameters. We've got the new in syntax, the array checking, comments, the switch from procedural to more functional style expressions. But then we've got some bigger stuff as well. So one of the biggest ones is support for what's called lambdas. So this is, let's say you want to list out all of the participants and you want them to be comma separated with the last one, last comma actually saying and. So Jenny, Teresa, and Tony. To do that in the old expression language was quite difficult, but in the new world, we can use something called a lambda. So let's say I want to take all participants. I'll look at the work item dot participants. And in case you didn't know as well, you can just browse to this. So you can get the values from here of what you want to type. So if I just wanted a list of all participants, then I will take that value that's there. So work item dot participants. And then I want to select from that list the field x.ods.name. So I'm now drilling down through those data composer fields into the separate objects. What I'm actually saying is for every participant that's in the list, run this select statement. X becomes the current participant that it's enumerating over, which is a data composer object. So I can then drill down into .ods.name to get the name of the participant. So now I've got essentially a list of strings. So I can then join that with comma. And what I should get when I run that is a list of all the participants that are on this case with commas in between them. But I actually want this last one here to be and. So all I can do there, again, I've now got a string that's come back from that join, a single string with all of the things comma separated. So I can use a string operator, replace last, and I'll look for the last comma space, and I'll replace it with space and space. And what I should get, if I've done that right without fat fingers, is I get the and at the end. Now you can do loads of things with these lambdas. Basically, the concept of a lambda is take the thing that I'm enumerating over and pass it into a function to get a different result. So for example, we can do sums, we can do counts, aggregates, we can do unions, intersects, we can also do filters. So if I wanted to ignore anything that says ACL in this list, for example, I can say filter were not X ODS name starts with ACL. And run that. And there we go. We've got rid of all the ACL ones, and it just says Wendy, Mitra, and Cyberdyne Systems. But because it's data composer as well, because we're starting with work item dot participants, you can walk up and down the data composer tree as much as you want. So I'm just going to paste something in that might be a bit mind blowing. But here is one I prepared earlier, which what's this going to do? This is going to go from the matter that I'm running this expression against. It's going to walk up the tree back to the statement of work parent, and then it's going to look for any tasks that are anywhere within that statement of work tree. It's then going to give me a count of all of those things and select the title of all those tasks. So the first bit here is where I'm walking up to the parent. The next bit is where I'm getting a count of how many tasks there are. The next bit is where I'm walking up to the parent that's a type statement of work, walking down back to tasks and selecting out all of the task titles and joining them together with a comma. So I'll run that, and you can see there are 3 statements of work tasks and then the 3 tasks that it's found beneath it. Okay, how am I doing for time? I'm running out. Okay, so I'll quickly show you a couple of other things. We can do variables now as well. So if you needed to get you wanted to do some chopping of like the work item reference. So I'll just select that to start with. So you see my work item reference is PCG 23 blah 2. And I might want to either just pull out the 002 at the end or the stuff that precedes that. So what I can do there is I can create a variable, so something that's going to remember something. I'll say var I equals work item dot reference. Get me the last index of full stop. And then I can take the work item reference and I can say, just get me the substring from position I. So it's going to look for the last index of the full stop and chop the string at that point. So I've now got .00002. If I want to do that in the inverse, again, looking at the optional parameters stuff, substring can now take 2 parameters. So I can say start at 0 and finish at I, and I can get the other side of it, PCG23. I know I'm going through this really fast, but it's a lot to cover in like 20 minutes. Just want to show you one more thing on expressions, and that's the concept of functions. So we did before this whole thing where we joined the CSV list together of all the different participant names. What you can do now is you can wrap that up into a script function. I'm not going to write this as we go, I've already prepared it, but I've created this function called names to CSV that takes a parameter of some participants, and then it's going to operate on that parameter. It's going to select out exactly what we did before. It's going to select out the ODS name, join them together with comma, and replace the last one with and. And that then means if I just duplicate this and go back to my work type, that then means that in Data Composer, I can just use that. So here, in fact, I'll go into debug so we can see this running. And that. You can see now I've not got any of that logic actually in my expression. I've moved it out into a function called names to CSV. It takes the list of contributors and outputs them. And that then means that if I need to change the behavior of how I create those CSV lists, I can just go back into the function and say, let's rename it to OR and save that. And then I'll go back and run it. And you can see my actual logic has now changed based upon that global thing. Right, that was a lot of stuff on expressions. I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to show you a little bit about business rules. But in terms of the expression stuff, all of that was probably a little bit scary, but don't worry, there's going to be a ton of videos and articles and references all going up on help.shodo.co.uk with the release of 7.6. So you should have lots of references for how to do some of this funky new stuff. Quickly show you business rules and show you what it's meant to replace. So everybody's probably used matching rules in some way, shape or form, and the editor for this is a little bit cumbersome. And half the time, to be frank, we don't know what half of these functions seem to do. They're not really very descriptive. If I just wanted to go and look for something based upon, is this Data Composer field this value? Good luck trying to find it in here. This has fulfilled its purpose for a while, but we've kind of outgrown it now. So what we've done is we've replaced it with something else, which is the business rules engine. Now, if you don't know what these are for, it's for things like matching rules, where you will say, you'll run a rule, you run a matching rule, you'll say, does this rule evaluate to yes or no? And if it does, I'm going to assign it to Teresa. If it doesn't, I'm going to assign it to this team, you know, that kind of stuff. You can also use them in workflows where you can say, evaluate this matching rule against a work item. And if it returns true, follow one path. If it returns false, follow the other path. The key concept is with rules is they always return true or false. They're not like expressions. You can use your expressions in here and compare values and all of that kind of stuff, but the concept of a rule is it returns yes or no. So the new world of business rules is we have this whole new design surface that looks a lot like the workflow editor. We have to say that a rule will run against a particular concept. So I'll just call this demo 1. And I'll say it's going to run against work items. We can run rules against work items. We can run them against document generations, which are like work items, but it also includes all the stuff to do with the template and stuff. Or we can run them against ODS entities, so I can run it against people, organizations, and all that kind of thing. So I'm going to run this one against a work item, and then I'm asked in the editor to tell it a representative entity type, and that's to drive some of the pickers that we're going to see in a second. So I could say, do you know what? This is going to run against any kind of matter, or it's going to run against a specific type of matter, and I'll get access to all of the different Data Composer fields that I have available based upon that type. I'll just say this can run against any matter. Then on the left-hand side is the design surface where we've got operators and rules. So operators are anding things together, anding the conditions together, or oring the conditions together, and a rule is the thing that it's going to evaluate. Now you'll notice when you go into add rule, whereas in the matching rules we had a whole list of stuff, lots of different things. All of those now have been distilled down into a subset. So most of the things that you found in matching rules can actually be fulfilled with this one rule, which is the field has an expected value. But we can also look at things like the current user. We can check if they've got certain personas and all of that kind of stuff. We can look at whether the work item type matches, whether a particular ODS entity's got certain competencies. But most of the rules, I think, will actually boil down to this field has expected value. So when I add that in, it then asks me, obviously, what field do I want to look at? So in this case, I'll look at the work item, its subtype, and its ID or its name, maybe. And then it says, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to compare against that field? And we've got a whole bunch of operators in here. We can say it's greater than, it's less than, all of that kind of stuff. I can say it's equal to something. And then I can just, if I want to, type the value in here. But better than that is this, where am I getting the value? I can actually look at the option set that it uses. So I just can't remember what this is called, but I think it's private client work types, yeah. And I can say, if it's LPA, then this rule will evaluate to true. I'll just save that and quickly show you a couple of features before I make this a bit more complicated. First of all, we've got this text display. So as you build up your rule, it will actually translate that into something that's a bit more human readable. So you can look at the translation view and basically just read exactly what that rule is going to do. We've also got this test method, which is a bit like the test stuff that we've just been looking at in the expressions. You give it a work item to evaluate against, you give it a user ID that the rule's going to run under, and it'll evaluate those rules for you. So I'll just quickly choose one, Cyberdyne, and my user will be me, and I am Wendy. I'll run that rule, and what this is showing you is how it's actually evaluating. So normally as this evaluates against the work item, if it hits a failure, so it says this condition hasn't passed, it'll fail, it'll stop, and that's it, the rules run. When it's in debug mode like this, it will run all of the rules to tell you what will and will not pass. And when something passes or fails, you can drill into the detail. It'll tell you exactly what it's trying to evaluate. So in this case, it's looking whether 310,000 is equal to 310,000, which it is, so it evaluated true. You can look at the configuration, the more technical stuff of how that rule was evaluated. And you can also turn on things like a full trace and run it again. And then you can see exactly the technical specifics of how the rule evaluated, almost like looking at a query plan if you were looking at SQL or Elastic or something like that. I'll just quickly make this a little bit more complicated. I'll add another rule, again, that the field has expected value. And I'll look at something else. What will I look at? I'll look at the, what shall I look at? I'll look at the work item. No, let's look at the person. Let's look at the person. In fact, no, I'm running out of time. Let's just do work item, title. And then we'll say, does it contain cyber? Now you notice it's now automatically added an operator, which is an AND. We can nest these as many times as you want. So you can create complex logic that's ANDs and ORs all the way down the tree. So I'll just say that this can be an OR and save it and run it. And we get a pass on both. I'll just quickly change the rule so you can see that it does actually fail. Change that one to CyberX, and I'll make it an AND. And you see the second one failed because the Matter Private Client General LPA Cyberdyne Systems did not contain CyberX. Okay, so quickly jump back to my slides and then I can hand over. Okay, so that leaves the last question, which is when can we have it? Now, you know how we release these days is based upon value and work that's actually been delivered to give us when can we go into QA with something of value. Currently, that's looking like we're going to hit the QA cycle at the end of October. So we're kind of expecting at the moment for 7.6 to be out on the week commencing the 6th of November. And that's pretty much it for now. I don't know if we had any questions.
I think we just had one in the chat, but I think Ben kind of fielded that one for you. I mean, obviously, if anybody does have any questions running through this, just pop them in the chat or You all do have the power to unmute yourselves, so pop it in the chat and Ben will either answer it for you or shout it out. Tony, I've got to tell you, that's a webinar first that we've had a round of applause in the middle of a demo. So I think that went down a storm. And I'm also slightly disconcerted by the amount of things that you were assigning to me there. It just shows everybody how much work Tony sends my way. Okay, I think we're on with Jenny next. So Jenny, off you go. Thanks, Tony.
All right, hello everyone. So first of all, Tony did get some round of applauses there. So I'm not saying anything, but you know, I'd like a bit of user interaction here, please. So I'm going to be talking about the top 10-ish widgets in Shardy. So it's top 10-ish because I actually couldn't quite get it down to 10. So there's 11. And really this is a couple of things. It's to highlight some of the widgets that maybe some of you aren't using in your applications, and make sure that kind of you're aware they're there, see some of the functionality. And then also there's some changes and some new widgets that have come across in the last couple of releases. So first of all, I'm conscious we've got kind of a different kind of range of people on this call. So I'm just going to come out of my PowerPoint for a second and just explain to everyone what a widget is. So this is a road traffic accident matter in Shardy. And on this portal page, this screen, we've got all these little boxes on here. So these are our widgets. And when we're configuring Shardy, we use a widget editor to put those onto the page. So if I come to here, so essentially we're able to select from a predefined set of widgets, and then we can put them onto the page and configure them. And it's a really fast way of building up your portals. And it's something that we quite often do sat side by side with a business user so that we get everything in the right place, because obviously, you know, as they're using the system, there are certain ways they want to look at things. There is certain information they want to put in different places. So let's have a look at some of these widgets. Okay, so number one on my widget list is the list view aggregator widget. So this is a widget that's been around in the system for a little while. And essentially what it does is it gives you a really nice, concise place where you can summarize information. So the two examples on the screen are some tasks that are on an instruction. So we can see we've got 4 open tasks, four of those are overdue, so not a great matter. Haven't completed any tasks yet. We've got risks and issues below, so we can see the risks and issues that are associated with these things. And really, they're a really nice, concise way to get a view. So we often put these onto summary screens, and they're a really good way of kind of saving space in your applications. And we're seeing more and more these used instead of kind of the big work list at the top. So many of you will have on your kind of matters or your work types, the work list that appears at the top. I've got all the details. And I'll just show you how this works in the application. So if I come onto here, so this is just a matter with lots of different of these widgets on. So if I click on my tasks here, you'll see that when I click on that, it actually takes me into the detail of what's behind it. So if you imagine your summary page, if there's lots of different things that you're interested in, so you know where you've got kind of roll-up work types, so things like site setup for a plot sale, or even on statements of work, for example, if you're trying to get an idea of, you know, how many things are going on your client mandate, on your statement of work, they're a really nice way of giving, you know, the management team or the fee earners a nice summary view, and then being able to kind of drill in and get to the detail. And on here, you've got all of your kind of usual actions, like you can bulk reassign, etc. All of those things, you can change status. So list view aggregators, really, really nice kind of way to summarize information. So the next one on my list is forms aggregator. So this is quite a new widget. So some of you will have seen a previous incarnation of this. So it's used across a few of our different clients, but actually we've made it into what we call a kind of first class curated widget now. And what this one does is it allows you to build out a kind of set of collapsible sections which will take you through the details on your work, and you get an indication of whether or not those sections have been completed or not. And you get the ability to actually go and fix that. So go and edit that data if you want to. So they're a really nice way of presenting information to users or to external parties who are going to go through kind of a process of collection of data. So we can see here this is a claim notification form. So let's go and have a little look at that one in real life. So this is that form on the actual screen. So you can see that we can open up the different sections. We can edit data in there if we want to. So that's going to open us up to our schedule there. So we can go in and we can change that information. So essentially kind of fix what we're doing. And then as you go through and these sections become completed, then they get ticked off so that you can see very clearly how you're progressing. So really good uses of this are in external facing portals. So for example, if you're asking a client or a potential client to complete some information, you can put this onto a really simple B2C or B2B portal and have them go through that, enter the information, be able to save it, come back to it, and then finally kind of submit it through into a process. And you can have any kind of information on here. So you can put information that's stored in form builders in here. You can have participants and add different numbers of participants in. You can have things like your reserves. So I'm just going to show you a little bit about how this is made up. So I've got a simpler one. That's on my little portal here. So this has just got 3 sections in it. So it's got a transaction details section, a buyers section, and a kind of kitchen sink section. So a lot of the configurators on the call will know the kitchen sink form, which is an example of all the different kind of things. So we can see here on buyers, because I haven't got a buyer on here at the moment, it's going to allow me to actually add that buyer in. So I can go and search for someone, add them in, put any additional details in there that I want to. And then it's then going to appear in there and I can go ahead and add another. So let's have a look at how that's configured. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here where our forms aggregator view is. So all of these widgets have the ability to say, you know, do they have a surround on them? What's the title? Is there an icon? Whether it's automatically expanded or not. So the specialist settings for this widget are around those different sections that we saw. So I'll show you the transaction detail ones to start with. So this is has been created from a form builder. So that's kind of a custom form that's been created. And the way that this widget works is it's the kind of same as authoring an email, or because it's using a kind of rich text and data composer to pull that information in. Now, in the original version of this, before it was curated, you had to go through and kind of build out this whole process in the same way that you would an email. But now there's a really quick way to add in a form. So if I click in plus there, I can select to import form. I can pick a form builder. So any of the forms that might be on here, I'll just randomly select that. Probably should have selected a different one, but actually no, let's do the kitchen sink one again so you can see it going. Let's go for that one. There we go. Okay. And you can see that instead of having to go through and do all that tagging up, it's automatically doing it for you. And you can do that for any of the form builders. The other thing that you can do in those sections, and I'm going to use that buying section as an example, is that we can set the visibility rules for it. So when do we say this thing is completed? So for example, if you've got a big long form builder, you might not need all of those fields filled in order for this section to be completed, but there might be some key ones. So you can set the kind of validation rules on there. You can set when the section is visible, so you can choose to show and hide it. And then you can also put on it action buddies, but action buttons. So when Tony was showing the matching rules earlier and showing us the kind of command buttons in his demo, we can use those command buttons to put onto here. So it's not just that you're showing the person the data, they've actually got a button that they can go and click and add that stuff in. So that's a really kind of nice widget that's come in. So next one is data quality widget. So data quality widgets have been around for a while. Some engagements use them a huge amount, some don't use them at all, so I thought it was worth talking about these. So data quality widgets are really, really great for visibility of missing data and guidance on where to enter the data. So here we can see that we've got some action that we can need to take on this matter. So we need to put the buyer solicitor in because it's missing. We've already got all our transaction details completed. And as with any widget, you can hide and show the widgets depending on different phases. And you can have different data quality rules set for different phases as well. So really good uses of this are when you're kind of trying to guide the user to make sure they filled out all the appropriate data before they get to a particular point. You can also, of course, use data quality rules on documents as well. So if you've got certain information that needs to be populated before the document goes out, you can have them on there as well. So again, if I just flip into Sharedo and go up here, so we can see here that these are both completed now. So we can see that we've done everything we need to on that. And the configuration for this is pretty straightforward. It's another one of the nicely curated widgets. So if I come to here, we can see that we can control what's shown on there, we can show the completion rules, and then the actual data quality rules themselves are actually set up on the individual matter. And so you're using matching rules there and then specifying which command you need to open that up. So there's some really good documentation on that on the help site as well. So next one. So form builder widget. So really simple, but actually something that we didn't have for a long time. So historically, forms were always on the kind of pop-out blades that we had on work and on matters. So quite a while back, probably about a year ago now, we introduced a widget that you can put onto your matters, which is essentially any of those forms that you've created that can just go onto the portal page, and then you get an edit button so you can go and edit those things. And if you think about the kind of structure of your work, what that means is that you can nicely kind of segment that information down. So a common use that we see is, you know, in kind of litigation, we might have maybe an investigations page. In real estate world, we might have some of these on the transaction details screens or around the completion statements. But it just gives the users immediate visibility of that information, plus the ability to directly edit that data on the work portal. Okay, key facts. So this is I think one of our favourite widgets. So for those of you that have been with us a long time, the kind of initial key facts widget was a kind of predefined set of things that you could put onto the matter. So things like the title and the statement of work reference, things like that. So the new key facts widget, again, has been around quite a while, but there are some places it's not been used, is really a completely kind of blank page widget where you can use Data Composer to put on whatever you want. Now on this widget here, I've left this grid around this so you can just see how this has been structured. So usually in production systems, we make that grid a borderless grid so you can't see it. But when you're building out your key facts widget, a really nice way to do it is to put a grid on. And again, it's just using the same process that you would do if you were templating an email. Put a grid on, and then you can keep all your labels nicely down the side and then have your data showing on the opposite side. So this is a really powerful widget. So you can make this into whatever you want. You've got the full capability of Data Composer there. And obviously, Tony's just taken us through the changes to the expressions engine that we can use for building up things like calculated fields. So again, they can be used within this as well. It uses the same formatting as emails. So that means that you can put firm styles in here. You can kind of format everything exactly how you want to. And then you can also customize the button that appears at the top. So we've got a little pencil icon up there at the moment. But any of those commands that Shoni was showing earlier, we can add up here. So it could be that you want to do something like edit your reserves or add participants, or go to one of your custom form builders. Whatever that may be, you can configure that into this key widget. So that's a really nice, powerful one. So number 6. Okay, so this is quite a simple one, but it's one that we see used a lot across engagements, and it can be quite a powerful one. So everyone should be familiar with the comments widgets that we have on the page, so you can enter comments in. What pinned comments does is it allows you to separate out certain comments from the big bulk of comments if they're particularly important. So, in this instance, Fred is on holiday. He's the client. We don't want to contact him while he's on holiday. But it could equally be something like, it's become apparent that the customer is vulnerable, or just something that's just happened that everybody working on the matter needs to be aware of. And they're kind of transient, so you can pin a comment and then you can unpin the comment when it's kind of finished being the most pertinent thing, if you like. Just another kind of reminder on comments as well, because again we see varied use, is just the @ functionality. So within comments you can do @ an individual person. So you can @ say the matter owner, or you can do something like @ the case team, which will notify anyone that is part of or has been defined as the case team on a matter. So as soon as you put your kind of comment in and press send, that will then send out notifications. And depending on the user's preferences, that's either going to come up as a Schedule notification, or it'll come through as an email for them. And if I then come and pin that comment, you'll see that that now appears at the top of the screen. So in matters that are kind of been going on for a long time and you've got lots of comments, that's a really nice widget to have on. Okay, participant summary. So participants and the participant widget have been around since the beginning of time. But what I really wanted to talk about was just how that gets used on your screens. So in its kind of default state, the participant widget will show all of the parties on your matter, but you can configure it to say that you want to include or exclude certain rules. And so when you're doing your design, it's a really good idea to think about maybe how you want to segment that data. So, for example, you might want to separate your defendants, your plaintiffs. You might want to have your case team separate. And then the other thing to point out is that there's some new functionality that came, I think, in the last release, which allows you to see really clearly now the connections between the participants. So we can see here that Samantha is represented by William Silversmiths, and we can see on William Silversmiths that they're represented by Samantha. So if I just actually come and have a look at our participant widget on here, and what I'm going to do is just set up, I open up Samantha here. So the other thing that's changed recently is that you can actually see the network connections of a party as well. So we can actually configure to show those on here as well. So for example, you can see that Samantha is employed by Company Limited. So we can add a case connection on here. So we want to say that Samantha is represented by William Fishhouse. And we can add those on. And then you can see if I leave out that. We should be able to see that they're now linked together. So if we go into Samantha's record, we should be able to see it. So if I refresh this page, I think we'll be able to see that. So that kind of is a nice widget for just being able to show kind of in nice containers the different participants. And of course, if you've got different pages on your matter or on your work, then you can segment those out as well, so the relevant participants are showing on the right pages. Custom menu widget. So this is quite a new widget and a really nice one. So essentially, what this allows you to do is to put a widget on the screen that allows you to put some buttons on there. So we can see here we've got the ability to request records. We've got the ability to log a witness, to contact a witness, or to instruct an expert. So these are quick actions, and that menu framework that Tony was showing you about that had all those different things on. So whether it's participants or comments or your own custom forms or adding participants, changing matter finance, you've got access to add all of those on. So the way that we are primarily using this at the moment is where you've got kind of specialist screens on your Matter where you're doing particular things, we'll just call those out so that rather than having to say, go up to manage participants and say, right, I want to add a witness and then click, it's just taking away some of that click journey for the users. So if you've got kind of implementations that are a little bit older, it might be worth just thinking through whether there are places where this widget might help you to give the users a kind of better user experience. Number 9 is the information bar. So a really simple widget that just allows you to put an information bar onto the Matter. So good examples of this are, you know, for lots of you, we'll raise instructions and then we'll go and provision a Matter in your PMS system, and then that will come back and give us a kind of ID. So often this is used as a way to say, you know, refresh your screen because we're, you know, the PMS number will have come back, something like that. You can also have it visible at different phases in a Matter. So as with any widget, you can configure when that widget's going to be shown. So with this one, you can hide and show it at certain points, but it's just a nice way to be able to give the user some guidance. And you can either have it as a great big bar across the top because it's something that's relevant to the whole Matter, or you could maybe have it above another little widget, so above it, to give the user some guidance on something they need to do. And you can have different strengths of message. So this is an information message. You can kind of have a big red warning message as well if you want to on this. And of course, you can textualize the display, but this is great for giving user guidance about what to do next, and just to give some visual cues to the user. So number 10 is a new widget. So this is our document template browser. So what this does is it essentially gives quick access for users to templates, gives you the ability to preview templates, search by category or name, and then go in and prepare a document. So it just sits on the Matter. And you can see here that you get all of the templates that are associated with that Matter listed. You can go and click on the preview button to preview the template, or you can click add to actually go ahead and create that template. You can filter over here based on category, based on, I can't spell email, based on category, based on the different areas. And you know, this widget works really well when you've got really good hygiene around your documents. So, you know, as we always say, make sure you categorize them really nicely, make sure you use standard naming, make sure you kind of hide and show the documents based on the work type so the fee earners aren't overwhelmed with the number of precedents. But quick way for fee earners to get to kind of prep docs and get to the right templates. So this is particularly good, I think, for anyone who's using like a Caselight implementation. So where you're doing a lot of work in the system on key dates and documents as your kind of primary use and less workflow, this is a really nice one to have on there. And also, I think as well for a lot of the real estate transactions as well. So where you've got different leases or you've got kind of easement templates, things like that. And then the final widget is the plan widget. So many of you will see this on your Matter types at the top of the screen with key dates on it. So I'm just going to come back into Shadow over here. And this is quite a simplistic implementation of it, but essentially the plan view widget allows you to show what's happening on your Matter, on your project over time. You can choose kind of what the time frame is here. So I've got this set up for years. You can have that set to weekly or to monthly. You can have different levels on here. So I've chosen to put some tasks on here. I've chosen to put my key dates on here. So depending on the type of work you're doing, you can almost kind of, well, you can put a project plan in here. So you can have tasks in here. You can drag and drop the start and end. For example, here, with this Matter, if I realise that actually the desired completion date is going to move, you know, out here, I can move that across, and that's all configurable on the widget. So if I come down to the bottom of my screen here, to the plan view widget, you'll see here that you can enter in different sections. So those sections are all based on list views. So essentially, whatever the kind of thing is you want to show in here, then you create a list view that will show that. So in this case, it's all the tasks for this particular case. And then you can choose various settings on that. And depending on the kind of thing you're showing is what you'll set on there. So for things like key date, you'll probably have an icon with just the date underneath. If you want to, you can have things like the user who set the key date. For tasks, you can have them so you can in the same way I dragged and dropped that key date, you can drag and drop the start and end date. So, you can really use it as an interactive tool for planning. How am I doing for time? I think I'm good.
I think we're...
Yeah. Okay. Right. So that's the last of my widgets. So hopefully that gives you a whistle-stop tour of some of the kind of widgets and some of the newer widgets we've got in Sharedy, and some ideas about how to use them. There's lots more information on the help site about the widgets and instructions on how to configure them. But next time you go into your application, just have a look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and have a think about whether there's any of those widgets that you could be using to improve the experience of your users. That's it from me.
Thanks, Jenny. Yeah, I remember the first time I saw that plan widget. It's very aesthetically pleasing. I've got to say, it is my favourite. I would have voted for that one. And what you don't know is Jenny put out a vote to everybody. Everybody could nominate their favourite widget for preparation for that segment. Okay, all right. Now the next section, we're going over to Petter from Horwich Farrelly. Petter, are you ready?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Actually, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, because as I understand there are people around the globe. Let me share my screen. Please let me know when you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, fabulous. I have to say, I'm really happy that that worked because Teams was not my friend allowing you to be a presenter. So go for it. Thank you very much, Petter.
Good. So my name is Petter Hussar. I work as project manager in Horwich Farrelly, and just would like to say a kind of few words about our experience with Sharedy. It will be very short agenda. It's kind of basic info. I will say also a few words about the tender. The main part will be about challenges or experience and learning points for us. And I also would like to end with kind of what went well during that process. So some basic info. We started tender process in February 22. Contract has been signed in July 22, and first department has been onboarded in August 22. And this year in July, we did kind of practice management system integration software with finance system. And where we are now is, so we have first department received quite a lot of enhancements, and we will surely enhance it even more. Second department configuration is already in live. They have not started yet, and there are 3 more departments which are being configured. So I just would like to start with the tender, because actually also during the tender slides has been a bit different than others. So I will just mention how it looks like. So we contacted 28 vendors. Only 10 has been interested. We sent a request for proposal, quite big one, with about 20 generating about 100 capabilities questions. We used Gartner template plus results of a lot of meeting with our business, and based on that, we received just 4 replies. I think Sebastian is not the call, and I remember him saying that when he opened the request for proposal, he used different words, but I think he said that he wasn't happy seeing so much he has to do about it. So sorry, Sebastian. But it helped us to receive just 4 relevant replies, and it make our life much easier. What actually is first point I just would like to mention where slides has been different, and it was big surprise for me actually that there had been the only one vendor who replied on timely manner in every situation. I thought that vendors will at least pretend during request for proposal that they will be interested in you, but it wasn't the case. So that's why I'm mentioning it. It's, I don't know if we have been unlucky or what happened. Second was that also they have quite a lot of good questions during the tender, and actually it helped us to send the replies also to other vendors during the request for proposal process to define better what we actually need. So thanks for that to them as well. And last but not least, because this is also was different, was they have been open and honest on all meetings. If something they had, they said they have it. If they don't have it, they said they don't have it, and yes, we are working on it. So, and also this wasn't the case with all vendors, so this was different. Now I'll go with challenges and learning points. They are not listed in kind of list of importance or something like that. I try to put them to some kind of small chunks. Yeah, some of them are small, some of them are more obvious than others, but I hope that at least of them will be kind of useful for you. If no, I'm really sorry for this. So first, you have to be aware that there are some limitations. Yeah, in Shardo, it cannot do everything, which is pretty clear. Few small examples for us was being that for the big files, you cannot load really big files directly in Shardo. We are using as a DMS or document management system SharePoint, plain SharePoint, and we have to come up with some kind of solution and then train the people how to do it. Yeah. Another one was, again, permission in SharePoint. We thought that it will work differently and we have to come up with some workaround. I know that Sliceberg team is working on some, or at least this is how I remember it, on some better integration of Shardo and other DMSs. Maybe Ben or somebody else will mention if it's actually true or if I'm misleading you. And we hope that it's true and that it will be better, the communication with the underlying DMS. And also integration with third-party software. I just would like to say one example, and this wasn't the problem on the Shardo side actually, but with our finance system, that when we have been checking what's possible, what API can do, we have been saying, oh yeah, it can do this, perfect, everything is fine. So actually we plan at the beginning to have both side synchronization between our finance systems and case management system, so Shardo. So people will enter the time in Shardo, it will be in finance systems, vice versa. At the end, when we start to do it, we found out that actually it will not work as we wanted, and we have just to change our plans. And that's why kind of learning part for this point is kind of trainings. Yeah, just be prepared that you will have to train your team quite a lot, because some things may work differently in Shardo because the logic can be different, yeah, and it may require a lot of time, yeah, to show people how you should be doing. There will be also some workarounds you will have to be working, and also do not assume all which has been promised to you by all vendors and so on will actually be work, and be prepared to be flexible. Another challenge was export and import of the configuration, which is a really great feature. You just go there, you just click tick, 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 tick. It also tells you that this is must, probably you should also take, it's color-coded, everything is fine. There are a few issues with it. First, that not all can be exported and imported yet. I know that also during the time we started, it's less and less, so it's going to be better and better. Again, Sliceberg colleague can comment, you know, how well they did in this part, but there are things which you will have to do in all environments, just as a kind of heads up. But biggest learning point is you should really know what you are doing. Because it's easy to go there, click, 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 export, import, yeah, but then you have to be aware that there are consequences of your decision. And you have, for example, as for example, you see it on the previous, you know, parts of this call. So there is some kind of hierarchy, some logic in it. And if you forget about how you have it or you don't know, you can create a big mess, which happened to us once, where we rewritten the good configuration live system, and luckily with Sliceberg colleagues we sorted it. But there are other learning points, but this is the first answer. Really, please be aware that you should know what you are doing in the system. Yeah. Second one is on first couple of extra assure Sliceberg presence. Yeah, and I will say this is a must. Yeah, I don't know what other people who already have it think about it, but I think that yes, please, if you will be doing it first time, do it. Yeah, without them, it will be a lot of fun. And also till that time, we have just 2 environments. And this was the last drop there where we decided to go for the third one. So we have 3 environments now. We have development, where developers are doing the work, kind of IT testers are testing, then export is done, going to the UAT, so business user acceptance tests are being done. If something is not working, it's going back and forth and so on. When everything is done, it's going to the live. So the same package which is going from development to live, then is going to the UAT, is then going to the live. So this is kind of really, this also helps us actually going forward, yeah, to having UAT. Do not assume actually is connected with this migration and synchronization. And when once time we wanted to, during the integration with our finance systems, we wanted to synchronize the matters or import and synchronize the matters between the systems. And we did a lot of tests in development, UAT, in live. We did 1 matter, second, 5, 10. We checked a lot of things, you know, if everything's fine. And when everything was, we thought is ready, we just push it for all. And at that point, we checked kind of basic stuff, number of, for example, matters, references, and so on. But we assumed actually, yeah, that because we did so many tests before, everything was fine, and that's why probably it's totally obvious for all of you. I'm just telling it here. We found out that because of some kind of strange combination of things, so it was kind of maybe missing logic in the script, but also wrongly inputted data manually in shared code, that some clients has been rewritten. Yeah, we find out about it. I think on the next day, and again, then we fix it. I think this was the only P1 incident we had. Yeah, and actually, what I wanted to say is, do not assume, be maybe paranoid. Yeah, and try to check really everything, and maybe even use more eyes. Yeah, so this is kind of really a big launch point for us. Yeah. Another one is kind of requirements gathering and lay the request. From one point of view, everybody says, oh, it's easy. Yeah, people or meta owners know what they should be doing. You know, we have good BAs. Yeah, it's easy stuff. And actually, our kind of first learning point is include all levels of business. Do not include only partners or managers. Include also really people who are really doing it. Yeah, and also people from different departments. Yeah, put it together. Yeah, have really good, strong teams. Yeah, who understand the business and can challenge, yeah, and ask why we are doing like this. Oh, because we did it like this for 20 years. Okay, but why? I'm not going to mention this old favorite story about this room full of monkeys and banana, because all of you know it. But yes, please do not assume that if we did it like this, we cannot do it differently. Shardo is bringing a lot of new features, and you should try to think out of the box. And having really strong people who can really challenge and question is a must in this case. Yeah. Also, do not forget consult Slicebar to check if you are working the best path. They have unbelievable great experience. And even they do not have experience with your company, maybe they have with some others, and they sometimes can advise that they think this will work, or maybe this is not so good idea because maintenance of it will be much more time consuming than other options and so on. So please do not underestimate this. Yeah, they are really great in this. And another one is UAT testing, and maybe I will say UAT testing, UAT testing, UAT testing. It's really important so the business will do the testing, because they will find out, oh yeah, actually found out that 80% of matters are like this, but in some cases we do this and this and this, and actually we need to do some changes. Or which happened to us during implementation, they just before, a couple of weeks before, they found out actually we forgot about quite big piece of work which should be done, and we need this, and we just have to do it. So be prepared that this will also need a lot of time, and you will be reverting back maybe to requirements gathering also during the process a couple of times. Another learning point for us was high-level design documents. Try to keep them up to date, to keep track where you are, what was done, what was changed, and so on. This is also kind of useful. Also, do not estimate another challenge, decision. There will be a lot of decision you will be doing about access, participants, integration, references, folders, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Do not underestimate the number of decisions which will have to be made, and do not underestimate the time needed for reaching the consensus, because you will have more teams working on it. Yeah, more people. Yeah, so don't forget about it. Also, think big. If it works now for one team, think wide and or big, and think, will it work for 2 teams, for 5 teams, for 10 teams? Will it work for 5 people, for 100 people, for 200 people? Yeah, so think big and try to do it from the beginning, so actually it will work when you will be expanding. And also accept that you will be returning to some decision a couple of times. Yeah, you decide something at the beginning, but or on the process of actually it wasn't a good decision. Go back to the drawing board. Yeah. So you just have to accept it. Another kind of challenge is resources. Internal one, yeah, but also external one, yeah. Sometimes they will be thin, yeah, because of different reasons. Also on sliced bread side, yeah, it can be holiday period, it can be something, yeah. Also within your team, there can be kind of lateral hires or changing priorities because of something, and your technical and business teams will have to focus on it, yeah. So this will surely happen. So kind of my first learning point is accept the changes will happen. Yeah, its plan is perfect or just till the first day. When you start, yeah, it will start to change. So just accept that will happen and be agile enough and have really good and strong teams, which is Horwich Farley actually teams is that they will be able to accommodate it. Try not to have single point of success internally and externally. At the beginning, maybe it will be more difficult when we will be starting. But for example, now we have 3 teams working on it with BAs, developers, testers. We have more project, 2 product owners and so on. So try to have no single point of success. Sometimes not possible, sometimes it is, but try to have it. Also in case of slice bread, try to have more people to be involved with you. So if something will happen, you know, you have a cover. Yeah. And also, you cannot do it without the business. Sometimes people assume that actually IT team will do everything and we will just sit and it will start work. No. Business resources are crucial to go right direction and do it well. And it won't be like 10 minutes per week. It can be hours and hours, not only during the requirements gathering, as I mentioned, and then working with BA, then developers will build it. But then there is this testing. And this can be really time consuming and without this you can go. So please, when you will be discussing with also business, just don't underestimate how much time they will need to put to it as well. Another kind of challenge is existing automation in your current case management system. And it's going to be this minimal viable product, because at the beginning we decided that we will go with minimal viable product, and it worked with our first team. We really in 6 teams with the actually sliced bread build it for us in the 6 weeks. Yeah, and actually the team could be working. It was just shell. Yeah, and we had to add a lot of things to it, but actually this worked. It was minimal viable product, and we have been adding things. The challenge starts when your IT teams are so great that they put a lot of automation and workflows to your current case management system. And it means that your minimal viable product will not be so minimal. And you will have to have a kind of long discussion with business. Yeah, and this was the case, for example, that our IT teams have been so great, they automatically even maybe opening doors and closing windows. Yeah, so we had some challenges around this. So communicate this minimal value approach with the business as soon as possible. Try to explain what exactly it means, and discuss with them so they will understand that yes, they maybe could have everything perfect from day one, but then they will have to accept that it will not be done in weeks, but it will take much longer. So it's all the times kind of trade-offs. Yeah, so they just have to understand it. With this also connected kind of microservices. Microservices, what I use for microservices is that, for example, you have your old case management system. Now you will have a new one, but you have also finance system, other systems, and they have to talk to other. And for example, clients, probably you would like to have the client's information same in all system. It will be kind of advantage. Yeah. So how you will do it? Will it keep it in your as a sort of will be the old case management system, new case management system, finance system, or you will build some kind of microservices for things which will actually synchronize it everywhere. Another example can be conflict check. Again, you have to do conflict check in both systems, because probably you will not jump from one case management system to another from one day to another. So you really have to think about this as well. And there will be a lot of such things also, maybe about telephony, text message and so on. So please do not underestimate this, and please include all teams, especially architecture, as early as possible. Architecture team knows how works and everything, and how it is connected, what works with what doesn't, and so on. So they will be able to advise. So please use them. Another, or maybe last kind of point I would like to use, additional features. You saw also on this meeting that Sherdo is evolving and bringing new stuff. And kind of learning point is you should keep learning all the time. And your managers will have to understand it, that even your developers, BA, you know, they will have to go align with keeping, you know, with updates from Shardo. For example, we started in this August 2022. In this year, there was about 13, 14 updates already. So we started with 7.0.0, I think, or 7.0. Now we are in 7.5.4. So keep learning, yeah. And this is otherwise the product, your product will be as good as team building it, yeah. And your team will be as good as they have ability to learn new stuff. So this was kind of last challenge and our learning point, yeah, we had, yeah. And I just also mentioned a few things which went well. And one thing what I would like to mention is this, what I already told about. Its implementation of the first department took only 6 weeks. Yeah, it was Shell, you know, but they have been able to work, and this was kind of really great. Second thing, what went well and still going well is Sliber understand the business and can advise. Do not underestimate them. This, you know, you can really come to them. We this is how we would like to do, and they can tell you that, oh, it's not a good idea, or you can do it, but you will have to do this. So don't underestimate their knowledge. It's really great. With this is also connected. What you see also now is this documentation like high-level design, so on, help resources like knowledge articles, demo sites they have, videos, user forums like this. This is unbelievable valuable source of information. And another one is they are really great implementing new requests and changes. And this is connected with the updates I said, you know, they're bringing new features very fast. And also when you need something, for example, one example from our first team, Shardo have bundles. You can create, for example, core bundle easily, put files there, click done. But our team asked, okay, it's great, but sometimes we need copy bundle and you then work with them as a separate bundles. And this feature wasn't there. So we asked Sliber, and it's there now. Yeah. And sometimes it takes longer. Sometimes I remember one request, it took only about 2 weeks to be in live because actually it wasn't big and we asked for it in the right time. So it was just when they had been preparing. So it was really fast, but it will take longer, and probably Sliber colleagues can tell you how many new enhancements per year, per month they're bringing, but it's quite fast. With this is also kind of small things, which is updating the documentation videos is a bit slower sometimes, yeah, because when you're bringing so much new things, you know, sometimes the video is not showing it. Yeah, in demo you will have it, but sometimes, you know, so you just have to accept it. And I also would like to say about kind of more generic stuff. And first one of them is that slice bread team is helpful. They're not trying to be helpful. They are helpful. You have a problem, you tell them, they will help. You know, you mess something, they help. You have a question, they will help. So nothing more. They are just helpful. Open-minded. They will not tell you that no, this is how it should be done. Yeah, this is how it's planned. No. You will come with any crazy idea. They will think about it. They will try to find out if it's good. You know, maybe you will then agree that it's not good, but maybe they will help you to create this crazy solution. Yeah. So this is also great. I think that they are really helping you to build what you want. They are not pushing you only to what they think you will want. They're honest. Yeah, if they have something, they have it. If they don't have, they don't have. They will tell it. Yeah. So again, I don't think I have to say more about this. And last but not least, for me, it's maybe one of the most important as a project manager. And we had just before contact, we had one meeting. I think Sebastian was there, maybe Ben and Nick as well from our part as some people. And I told that it's good that we will have contact, but I just would like then just push it somewhere aside and don't think about it. I don't want to weigh with this contact in front of your faces when we would like to do something. I just would like us to see work as a one team. I don't care if you are from Rich Farley or from Sliced Bread. We are working on it, and we should work as a one team. And I just have to say that it works. For me, it works. We are working as one team. And that's all what I wanted to say. Yeah, I don't know if there are any questions. So thanks a lot for your time. Yeah, and I don't know, as I said, if there are any questions.
Thank you, Petter. I mean, that was that. I have to say that felt a really honest account of, you know, and I think something, Ben, that we can probably agree that actually that would be, if we were to do an assessment of your implementation, it would be pretty much along the same lines. And yeah, one team. Right. Okay, Ben.
Teresa, just gonna yeah, I mean, thanks, Petter. Really, I mean, I cannot stress how, I mean, there's a couple of key points there for me, right? Feedback is so useful, right? And I'm going to talk about a couple of the points you made, which is things we could do better from a product perspective. I think, and I believe that as an organisation, we can work in in partnership with clients to at least to double the number of clients. And we've got about 35 clients, something like that at the moment, right? I think we'll be able to keep that model till we're 70. We're scaling our team reasonably effectively at the moment, right? And the only thing I'll just focus on, because hey, we're all human, right? We all make mistakes. We put bugs in the product, right? We try and trap them all. I think we got really good QA now, but hey, that happens, right? So we'll make a mistake. As clients, every now and again, you press the wrong buttons, you make awful mistakes, right, on your stuff. So that's fine. We're all human. We all get that, right? The only thing I think is really important in this partnership model is we're always communicating, right? Because like something goes wrong. I mean, I forget which client was. Something went wrong with someone's upgrade, right? In my opinion, it could have been tested better, right? It doesn't matter, right? We're all human. Just let us know, give us advance notice, because invariably the DevOps team and the CST team are often picking this stuff out of hours. If you give us notice, it's no stress, right? They do that. That's their job, right? But if you can always keep always understand we're all human, we all make mistakes, and give us notice, then we'll all work together to make it better. Yeah, but mainly feedback's really appreciated. Hey, I don't know if anyone else has got to add. I think the customer sessions are always really, really good. Hey. Oh, good. Yeah, so right, Tony looked at 7.6 and the sort of now, back to the future. I'm going to look at what's coming. Can we see my screen okay? Cool.
Yeah, you're not in presentation mode, but yeah.
All right, I'll put a slideshow. I'm going to look at what's coming in the next sort of 3 months to a year. So yeah, just look at the timeline for release 8. We are going to roll over to release 8 fairly soon. I just wanted to touch on the accelerator update about I guess some of the best practice guidance that we're doing. Focus a little bit on what's coming in 7.7. And then I wanted to speak about what does a major release look like. I guess some of their older clients have been through major releases. But I guess a lot of the newer clients haven't. We've been on release 7 now for 18 months, I'm guessing. So it may well be your first major release. I just wanted to talk a bit about that, how we can help you, but how also you guys need to plan for that stuff as well. And then look at what's going to come in early release 8 as well. Yeah. So that's what we cover. I'll try and be reasonably quick because hey, it's been going on for a while. So I just wanted to re-emphasize what our product planning process looks like. So Tony spoke about we're going to release 7.6. I suspect we're going to do a 7.7 and then we're going to roll on to release 8. We do a major release when there's major functional changes, yeah? And major functional changes need additional testing, need input from you guys. Do you know what I mean? They're things that are significant, right? We've done lots of feature enhancements. We're doing, I don't know, an average of 1 enhancement per working day, right? During 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, etc., etc., etc. But we haven't had to roll over to a major release for 18 months. We are going to do that pretty soon, yeah? So I'll talk about that, and that's the significance of going from a 7 to an 8, right? The next important note is we are aiming for a 7.7 or a 7.6 roughly every 12 weeks, but we're not time bound, we're value bound. So 7.6 actually, I think, is our biggest release for a long time. It's got an inordinate amount of value, right? But sometimes it will take longer, sometimes it will take shorter. We appreciate that we need to sometimes release things quicker, and hence there is roughly a CST release every 5 weeks. I think in prior to 7.6, I think we've done 3 or 4. Hey, yeah, our velocity is still, in my opinion, a bit too fast. It probably will slow down in release 8 slightly, and I think we're getting quite good at a backlog. I actually don't think it's 200 now, but it's there. But I guess, you know, various clients send me lists. I've still got all your lists, and we do work through them. They do get reviewed, and we do prioritize. If we can do something quickly, we'll always do it quickly. However, there are lots of dependencies between bits and pieces of work. So it's always there. We don't forget about them. But sometimes we need to get the ordering of functional enhancements. And I guess, yeah, in terms of value, there's always lots of little UX stuff. So there's now a UX stream that runs continuously across the product. There's a performance stream that runs continuously on the product. There's some really good stuff being shipped in 7.6 about general, like, time it takes to open a blade and all of that sort of stuff. Yeah. And there's also a quality of life stream that runs across the product, which is broadly people going, it's a little bit painful to configure X, or if I did this, it would be super quick for me. So all of those streams work through. I'm going to come back to this in a minute, but I guess the first thing I wanted to talk about was accelerator packs. So, I mean, Petter very kindly spoke about us being able to provide advice. Now, plainly, we haven't got all the answers, but I just wanted to look at the coverage we've got in terms of our demo system and the accelerator packs, right? There's quite a lot here. White stuff, I'm pretty confident about. It's never complete, but it's not bad. Orange stuff is stuff we're working on currently. Yeah. So we've got really good examples of what we consider to be best practice. Yeah. So don't be, as clients, you've got access to all of that stuff. We need to make it easier for you to consume it in 2 ways. I'm going to talk about changes to import export and some fundamental architectural changes we're going to make, so that if you want to, for example, implement debt recovery, you can take our pack, pull it into your environment, and then change it. Hey, because you're always going to change these things. Yeah. Just to focus on a couple of newish things in terms of the packs. Actually, I probably should have oranged some of the family and private client. We're doing quite a lot of work in there, although it's reasonably solid. We are doing a lot of work in Australia. I appreciate we need to provide more guidance for the rapidly growing client base out there, but we are getting there. And also highlight things like packs are constantly changing, right? So if you look at civil procedure in England, bringing out the intermediary track and all the other bits and pieces that are changing, right? We need to get better at communicating how we've implemented them, because you guys are going to implement that stuff as well, right? But packs are constantly changing. We're learning, we're using new features. So a good example of that would be the new document browser widget, right? We've been working on a best practice case light example, which shows, you know, a really good page for drafting and stuff like that, right? If you want access to this stuff, talk to whoever within our organization, they can get you access. If you want some, they're all backed up by loads of workflow diagrams, high level design, starter sheets. So it's not just about the configuration, it's about enabling you to talk to your stakeholders more effectively. And ultimately, it's all about implementing a better quality solution. I'll just touch on a couple of other things, actually. As an organisation, we've pretty much focused exclusively on legal. There's a new version of the website, I think, going to come out in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to broaden that out in terms of sectors, in terms of looking at insurance and a bit of regulatory stuff as well. Hey, so particularly for the defendant insurance clients, we'd love to talk to your clients as well. Hey. But yeah, so lots of good stuff there to learn from. Even if you just want an example of how to do something, there's usually an example and people can point you at that stuff. I'm always conscious, I always talk too quickly. I'll pause for breath, have a sip of water. I don't know if there's any more questions before we move on. All good.
Nothing
We
in the
want
chat
to get
window?
cool. We all want to get on with our jobs. I will keep whizzing on. We're doing some work on service desk actually. That should be that's got a while to run. Hey, lots of people are implementing sort of client ticketing systems, also like almost like global distribution of like support requests. Maybe it's a shared service center and stuff like that. So when that stuff's done, I'll maybe give you a demo of that. Yeah, so 7.7.
Yeah.
Cool. 7.7. I put a lot of stars here because some of the things in 7.7 might well move into 7.6. And some, I think some maybe mute someone, and some of the people in some of the items in 7.7 might end up going into version 8 as well. Yeah. So I'll just talk through a few of these concepts. We're implementing, and we haven't quite settled on the name, if I'm honest, a configuration advisor concept. So for those of you who've been with a while for major releases, and this is to support major releases, but also to support potentially misconfiguration in the application, right? So major releases, what have we done recently? We had the whole templates version 2 thing where you had to add it only had a single context. So within the application, for those who are familiar, within document admin, you got a page that basically spoke about your templates, right? The next major upgrade we did was finance version 2, and you had sort of a separate page that helped you there. We've centralized that into the concept of a configuration assistant. I was going to try and maybe show it very quickly, so it'll bring us like, this is a very old build of stuff that's nowhere near release, right? The idea of this concept is it will trawl all of your configuration and basically start to highlight things that potentially are wrong. And there's lots of different examples of that in the application. Let's go to demo 1 very quickly. You'll also see examples of that sort of concept being put and then fundamentally ignored, and we're no different from you guys. Hey, you'll see examples of that concept up the top here. So we've changed some workflow bots. You're going to want to sort that stuff out. Yeah, you'll see lots of examples of that concept with things like matching rules where there's invalid context types. Yeah, so this is places where your configuration is wrong. It does need to be fixed because it's going to cause you issues at some point in the near future, right? So the general idea of this, and this is a very early build, is it will go through, flag issues, give you a mechanism of sorting them out. So you can go, and this is looking at a calculated field. You can then rescan it once you've fixed it. I can't remember what this one does. Just delete it and I'm sure it'll rescan. Or you can override it manually and tell it to go away, right? So this is going to be your keeping the quality bar up on your Sharedo configuration. And the reason I'm spending a moment or two highlighting that, if I find the right button, is it's going to become increasingly important, right? So the business rules stuff is going to be ubiquitous across the application. It's going to replace aspect display rules. It's everywhere, right? Matching rules were a little bit less than forgiving. No, a little bit too lax. So we got lots of slightly lower quality matching rules than perhaps we should have. When we release the new business rules engine, there's going to be a very early version of this configuration assistant, which is going to go, hey guys, you've got some rules that look really wrong. Yeah. Another example of that, I'll talk about in a second. Yeah. So hopefully that will keep the general quality higher, and I guess actually quality is so important for everyone, and it's important for us as a product company, super important as you, because you guys are producing a product on top of our product, right? And Petter spoke I think at length of, I don't know how many times he mentioned UAT, QA, etc., but it's, you know, super important for everyone. Yeah. I'll whiz through the rest of these, right? Actually, import export, another good, yeah, Petter, we all know it's hard, right? It is hard. You need to have a good understanding of the application. Couple of changes. Some of them might make 7.6. They definitely make 7.7. We're implementing 2 key concepts in import-export. One, it's going to understand deltas. So broadly, we audit behind the scenes, albeit we don't actually surface that information changes to modeler. We're going to surface all that information and make it a key element within import-export. So you can say things like, I only want to export the things that Ben changed in the last month. Yeah, I'm not sure it'll be that granular, but that's the general sort of concept. Yeah, so particularly, and we've got some clients now who are running lots of people generally call them pods, mini teams. We've got clients who are running lots of pods, and yeah, we need to evolve the platform to support that way of working a lot better. There's also enhancements about excluding some dependencies related to core work items. I'll whiz through the rest of these very quickly. Outlook plugin, I'm hoping it will make 7.7, at least the MVP version. It might go over. In many ways, I don't really mind about that. So both the Outlook plugin and the Word plugin are true SaaS. There's one version. Everyone runs the same version. It's not tied to your Sharedy version. So we extend the functionality of those plugins separately to the main app, so they move on a different cadence. So the business rule stuff, I think is super cool. Hey, and we're going to be extending that sort of canvas concept to other areas of the application, such as making allocation rules. Again, very cool concept. It's a bit hard to configure at the moment. We'll be extending that canvas to look similar to the business rules and enable you to create really complex allocation rules, which for the larger firms, I think is a real differentiator in terms of your ability to manage work effectively and allocate to the right person at the right time and all that good stuff. We spoke a little bit, I think it was the last user group, about AI, and although it's not true AI, but hey, and our roadmap for that. The first piece of that, I think, is going to be released in 7.7. For those who know me, I'm a massive cynic. A lot of these things, but actually, I think so. We're not going to release any of this stuff for marketing purposes. That I'm really clear on. We're going to release it when we can see significant business value. And the first piece, I think, is going to come in 7.7. It might slip, but it is around the concept of communication sentiment. And I'm hoping that's going to be ubiquitous across the application. So I'll give you some use cases that I think are very cool about this, right? Every comment, and it's subject to you guys opting in and configuring it, the same as most features, right? Every comment, every email that's received by the application, every document that's produced can be given a communication sentiment, both inbound and outbound, right? As a business leader myself, right, I would be really interested to know if the sentiment was changing for a particular client, or maybe the sentiment overall had changed, or maybe the sentiment for a particular person had changed, right? And there is an element of Big Brother here, and I think we need to be really cautious, and that's why it might slip here. Because actually, I think some of the cool stuff that we'll be able to do is about early warning indicators. So we're all in the services business, right? No one wants a client to be unhappy, but often the time they tell you they're seriously unhappy is when they're really seriously unhappy. Yeah, wouldn't it be great if you had some early warning indicators that you can start to put proactive stuff in there? So we may slip on this stuff, hey, because we want to get it right. But I think that's the first example of some of those sort of techniques. Obviously, we integrate with all of the Azure ML stuff if you want to do it yourself, but we're going to build a lot of that stuff into the platform. Yeah, that's probably enough. I've gone on for enough. Lots of good stuff coming in 7.7. Some might make 7.6. Some might make 7.8. It's about value and quality, yeah, not time. All good. Yeah, what does a major release look like? Since we haven't done one for 18 months, I thought it was worth speaking about this. So minor releases should be relatively simple. They still need testing, guys. So everyone needs to test. We test, you guys need to test, because across our client base now, there is such an inordinate difference in terms of configuration. Some people are making massive use of the IDE and plugins. Some people have got robots plugged into our public API. There's a huge gamut of different use cases now being fulfilled in ShareDo, right? So even a jump from 7.5 to 7.6, you need to go through some testing. It can be as heavyweight or as lightweight as you guys feel comfortable with, yeah. But major releases do require more planning, right? So and we've learned a lot of lessons, I think, here. So if you look at what happened in Finance V2, we could have done better. In terms of communication and planning around that. And likewise, 10 points V2, I think we learned a lot of lessons at that. So I'm going to talk about how we're going to help you and how you can help yourselves on that a little bit. So next things, why are we rolling on to release 8? And I just wanted to spend a little, and we've changed the roadmap around recently to move what we call security model simplification. And we've moved that up the priority. So ShareDo's got a complicated but very flexible security model. And I think I opened up in one of my tabs the guide that we've got currently. Yeah. You can do really sophisticated things, but, and this is my big but, I think it tries to be too clever. And it requires a level of thought that not everyone is prepared to put into it, right? And hence, almost by being too clever, and people, by their very nature, we're all human, we're all human, right? Maybe not putting as much thought as they want to, potentially put security at risk, right? And no one, that's the biggest threat to all of our businesses, yeah? So we're getting there in terms of the design of this stuff, but we're going to simplify our security model, keep the flexibility, and build it around the concept of the ODS walls stuff we did. What I'm hoping is, and it's interesting, one of the things I think Petter picked up and a few other clients picked up, they're going, because a lot of you people are working in a CMS-centric world, right? So CMS permissions should drive your DMS permissions potentially, yeah? Now, the larger clients probably have bought things like Intact Walls over the years, which is starting to look a bit old now, but still it's doing that top-down security model. But I guess what we're seeing is more and more demand for CMS-centric firms to drive the security model of downstream applications from ShareDo, right? Anyway, that's a bit more in the future. We're going to change the security model. We're going to tighten it up. We're going to make it easier to configure. We're going to make it easier to monitor. But what I'm anticipating is going to happen, which is why we're calling it a major release, is that the ShareDo configuration advisor thing is going to run a million rules against all your security and go, oh, I'm not sure that looks right. Yeah. And there's going to be lots of, and that's going to require business input. Yeah. So how are we going to help you with that? And how are you going to help yourselves? So within the CST team, we're creating a specialized function for upgrades. So these are people who are skilled in what does it mean to go from 7.5 to 7.6, 7.6 to 7.7. Yeah. So they're product advisors specializing in upgrades. Yeah. They will work with you. They're not going to do the work, let's be clear, right? But they're going to work with you to say, hey, this is what the ShareDo configuration advisor has just told you. This is the significance. This is what I would suggest that you do about it. I'm going to give you an example. What we see across lots of clients, right, is different matter security goes from statement of work generally. That's all fine. It will pick that up. But often people are configuring different security rules against different key dates. So they're hiding certain key dates from different user groups, clients, etc. Right? The ShareDo advisor will, I believe, pick up those inconsistencies. It should do. And it may well be they're valid, right? It may well be actually I've set that rule up and it's right. Or maybe actually it's invalid and you want to change that stuff, right? So it's almost, think of it like a security, or release 8 is going to be a security audit for your entire application around a new, simplified, easier to use model. So that's a big focus for us. I'm sort of top right now of this slide. Sorry, I'm being verbose. Again, I am too verbose. The other thing we've spoken about a lot internally, actually, is I guess the sort of company we want to be, right? So, and I think it's important to know about upgrades, right? So if you, like, a DMS upgrade in a mid to large size law firm can take 18 months, right? It takes a long amount of time to do, yeah? A PMS upgrade, my God, they're big, right? And they often cost an inordinate amount of money and all of those sort of things, yeah? We don't want to be like those vendors, so we want to provide tools to make this easier, but nevertheless, all upgrades have cost associated with them, yeah? So we're very much focused on the tooling to support you guys to keep moving, yeah? But nevertheless, yeah, some of these things, hey, if it requires input, it's going to take some time. So if you want to stay on release 7, that's fine, right? Stay on release 7. I'll give you more input as we get through the security simplification about how long we think it's going to take on average. And for a lot of clients, by the way, I think it'll be dead simple, right? I think it'll be, yeah, maybe 20 warnings, you review them, you're done in a couple of days, maybe, or a day, maybe, I'm not sure. But if you've got more usage, you're welcome to stay on release 7. You're welcome to stay on release 7 until we release 9. And broadly, we do that roughly every 18 months. Again, it's value driven, not time driven, and fundamental change driven more than anything. But yeah, approximately 18 months to do that. If you can't, so we're going to roll into release 8, which means you need to get off release 6, and there's I think there's only 2 clients in that situation. If you can't, for whatever reason, we will extend that time period by exception, and involving an extended support agreement. So we're not going to abandon anyone, but we're not going to abandon people. We are going to support you, and there's limitations to what we can support as the older the application goes on. But we are going to try never to be like a PMS, an ERP, or a DMS vendor, which makes these major upgrades prohibitively costly. That's our intention. A lot of stuff there. I'm running out of time. Any questions? Cool. I'll skip through this really quickly. And big tickets, what's coming in release 8. I'm hoping to pull some of these forward. Yeah, OIC, Teams Chatbot, security model simplification, loads of stuff around the fundamental model, continual enhancements to Outlook plugin. I put Teams Chatbot in there twice. MCOL will come early and release them. And then I just wanted to spend a couple of things of the larger items. We've sacrificed repository version 2 for security model simplification. I would have loved to do a rework. Sam, I'll pick that up with you separately. You should be able to do that now. We sacrificed repository version 2 for security model simplification, but we will be doing that straight away afterwards. Again, I think on the last meeting I said anyone who gets involved in that working group, of which I've only had 1 volunteer so far, thanks Lee. Anyone wants to get involved in starting to formulate the requirements for what our repositories document, management integration will look like in the future, again, just email me. I haven't really worked through it that much because we focused on security model. Form Builder 2, we've needed to do it for so long. Hey, if I'm honest, we're still nibbling around the edges to keep you guys running. So Jenny demonstrated the Form View aggregator. Tony demonstrated the new participant picker, which I think solves a lot of the really annoying things in the current forms world. But we're going to be cracking on with that stuff pretty quickly. And then in what we call the predict roadmap, so the Azure ML type stuff, we'll roll out incrementally, starting with the sentiment stuff that I think I described. Spoken very quickly. Think that's it. As always, thanks for everyone's time. Any thoughts on a Copilot plugin? Copilot just works with Word, hey, and with the Office suite, so it happens naturally. But
well,
I'm happy.
Technically, there's an ecosystem of plugins that you can hook into Copilot, so give it special skills essentially.
Yeah, I've looked at it very briefly, if I'm honest. We've played quite a lot around with large language models, and in our investigations, I guess what we're majorly concerned with security trimming. So we can provide large language models a lot of data, right? But we can't get them to trim it effectively. So with all the work we're putting in around barriers and stuff like that, I think I'm still nervous, hey? But I'm happy to pick up on those things. If you've got specific, I mean, all feedback is a gift, hey, right? So, and innovation feedback is even more of a gift. So, yeah, give me a shout, Sam. Really appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you very much, Ben. I mean, great interaction on this first webinar. Lots and lots of kind of people reacting. So I just want to close out with my stolen few minutes, my diary dates. So we are focusing quite a lot at the moment on trying to change the way our open training sessions work. And so what we're doing is we're going to do some focus months. So October is our analyst focus month. So we're actually going to run, rather than just one session in that month, we're actually going to run 4. All of these are available on our website, so you can go to the events page on the website and register onto any one of those. And then following that in February, we're hoping to make that tech month. In between those will be our kind of run-of-the-mill monthly sessions that we run. So we do a quarterly shared overview for any new starters or people that are just coming new onto the platform. But if anybody does have any suggestions of things that they think that actually it would be a good one for us to run, that they think lots of people would benefit from, definitely send it over to me, because obviously we sit around brainstorming what we think people will want to know. But obviously, as with Ben's roadmap, all input's good input. So if you've got any ideas, any requests, then kind of send them over. Right, I think we're just about there. So does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to say before we close out? Okay, well, in which case, thank you. This has definitely been our biggest session. So thank you ever so much, everybody, for taking the time to join us. We run these twice a year. Ben will be doing his Christmas roadmap update. So stay tuned for that. We're done. Thank you ever so much, everybody. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys.